know, reporters meet those guys every week, and they should be asking them over the next few days, come on, let's hear about what really happened to this guy, and we want to know the truth. But I think that story, that there'll be more to run on that, actually. There'll be more to run, I think. Yeah. But anyway, we've got some other issues we want to discuss as well, actually. We want to talk about the policy address, don't we? And we want to just discuss about that, because that was I've been watching the YouTube clips of what actually happened during the policy speech, and obviously LSD staged a protest and stirred things up a bit. Did you guys see the YouTube as well?
Yes, a few times.
Yeah, because obviously I don't understand Chinese, actually. Yes. I don't quite know understand what they're saying, but I sure as hell know roughly what's going on, actually. And I'm listening. It's interesting for me as a non-Chinese speaker to listen to some of Raymond's speeches, actually, because you can get a good idea of what the hell he's saying, even if you can't speak Chinese, actually. But it was interesting, the actual protest itself. Longhair, he basically refused to move, didn't he? And he was carried. That's the first time that any lawmaker has actually been carried out physically of the chamber. I mean, what did you make of that?
Well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I think, well, we all know that they're not going to beat chief executive up, or he's not going to do anything violent that might harm people. And why do they need to send in 8 or 10 of those security guards into the chamber just for those free men of the LSE? I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's a threat to the freedom of speech even in the chamber. It's one way of expression. It's not just speech. It's different kinds of presentation of their ideas. So I think it's a big threat, actually, going on.
Technically, they cut the sound off from the microphone, but luckily we had Albert Chant, so we have the handheld video things
That's
on
right.
the table.
Yeah, I mean, how can a listener, if they want to watch that, what do they type into YouTube?
Into YouTube, I think you just type HKLSD as the username, so you can search it.
Because Albert, he had his own camera, didn't he?
Yes.
And basically he gave his own angle of the incident. Actually,
yes, it's one of the tactics.
Yeah, and even though the Legco turned off their TV, his camera kept rolling, actually.
Yes.
And you can it's interesting to quite see what happened, actually, from that angle. Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting. It showed some footage of the speech as well, actually. Yes. Didn't it? And Albert's view on it, and Longhair was making some comments, wasn't he?
Yes. And you feel very funny, yeah?
Yeah.
You understand, I told you what he's speaking, like Greek, shakiness, something like that.
Longhair was making some comments whilst Raymond was talking, wasn't he? To sort of encourage him and back him up, actually. Yeah. It was a funny...
the funny thing is that if you look from the TV camera, he was talking, like a primary school student, behind the books,
That's exactly. It's exactly what it was like. Yeah. 2 naughty boys sitting at the back of the class. 3 naughty boys sitting at the back of the class. Yeah. I mean, I watched the policy address actually on TV. I was watching it on live, and it was interesting. I watched it on ATV, the English channel, ATV English, and they are a bit more independent, I think, than the Chinese version. Actually, I think in some ways, some pockets of the English media have got a lot more independence, and it was interesting. The ATV commentator, as soon as the speech ended, he basically he ignored everything that the speech that Donald was saying and said, okay, so that was his speech, and I take note that there was absolutely no mention of any talk of democracy and any genuine efforts to promote constitutional development. So it's interesting the way that they were reporting it. I mean, what was your take on it?
I think last time I was watching on ATV2, like on the live of his one visit to the Legco. And it's funny that when LSD members were being taken away from the chamber, ATV actually went to the interview of the LSD members instead of playing the live video of those policy address or those kind of conference in the chamber. So I think, I don't know, like it's quite different. Like I think what you were saying is right, that the English channel is a little bit independent from the other part.
I think it is wrong though that the Legco cameras, they turn off the sound actually. There's no justification for doing that. Is there actually, if you think about it?
For the rules, they have the...
Anyway, I think we're going to have to wrap up this half, and we'll be back in a few minutes for the second half. Thank you.
Thank you.
Power can be taken, but not given. It is the process of taking which is empowerment in itself. This is Matt Pearce. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Before we start, I want to mention a YouTube clip, www.youtube.com/user/Matt Pearce, Pearce, Matt Pearce Radio. user/Matt Pearce Radio. And Ken, the coordinator, has told me to mention that for people to check out. What exactly is that, Ken?
Yeah, it's all the archive of your program.
Oh, right. Okay.
Our program.
I better have a look then myself. Okay, so anyone who wants to see any previous program or wants to argue with some previous program that I've said and wants to send me a nasty email, they better have a look at that and listen to that, because you can hear any of our old programs are on that.
Yes, and because we don't have a specific page for Matt Pearce program, and especially for the international listeners from English speaker, because when they search on myradio forum or Hong Kong reporters webpage, it's all Chinese. So now we have a YouTube channel. We can share it on Facebook, and especially when Simon Lee Carhall came back, we can think more creative idea that we can send the YouTube links to overseas and let the overseas people know what is happening in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah. And another, I'm going to mention another website in a minute, because I want to talk about another protest. Since our last show, there was a very interesting protest that took place in Britain, in England, when a group of 20 Greenpeace activists climbed up onto the roof of the British Parliament. And, the video footage, you just got to see it to believe it, actually. Anyone who's interested to have a look, you can log in to www.bbcnews.com. And if you type in Parliament rooftop protest, rooftop is all one word, Parliament rooftop protest, and you'll see some footage of these 20 activists sitting on the roof of the Parliament. I mean, that's interesting because the idea of that happening in Hong Kong is it's just beyond the imagination, I think, of most Chinese activists and most of the democratic political groups here. And I mean, why is that? Because let's face it, it was a pretty damn good protest, and it was successful. It was very, very big news in Britain, and was reported around the world. And if 20 democracy activists sat on the roof of a building, like the Legislative Council. I'm not saying go and do it, because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm not saying do it, but I'm saying if they did do it, it would be very big news in Hong Kong and around the world, actually. And you know, that the activists in Britain were actually Greenpeace activists. It was to do with climate change, and obviously that's been a very big issue in Europe actually in the past few years. There's been a lot of what they call, you know, direct action, you know, non-violent direct action like that, doing stuff like that, climbing